This is the Behemoth. All you need to fold this plane is a A4 sheet of paper. First, you will begin by folding in half. Next, we'll continue with the water bomb base. For this fold, it's important that this edge goes directly to the opposite side and all the corners are aligned before you make that fold. Then you will of course repeat on the other side. And now this is just the way I prefer to do it. You can do it the normal way as well. I'll fold this top edge of the triangle to meet the bottom. Unfold and repeat for the other side. And now you can just collapse the paper. Now flipping this flap to the other side. The only piece of paper here is the last edge. We'll fold this edge to the top. Flipping this to the other side. Now we'll repeat the same step here. We'll take this flap to the other side and then proceed to fold this side again to the top. Okay, now we will let now we will fold this side up while letting this flap come out. And now you want to make a crease that lands this edge right on this middle center crease right here. And you can crease it better. And now you want to do the same thing on this side. Okay, this is a slightly tricky step. We'll flip over. You can rotate and flip over like so, or just do this. And now we will want to fold this top triangle down, but what we want what we want is to create a crease from this point to this point, like some prongs. So you need to fold this down enough so that that crease is possible. If it's more or less correct, you can crease across, but make sure that the center creases are aligning. And next, of course, we'll repeat for the other side. Just reversing this flap to fold in the opposite direction. This can be slightly tricky, but once you have accomplished it on one side, you can easily do it on the other. They just have to be, again, more or less correct. It doesn't have to be fully perfect, but symmetry is ideal. Once we have the paper in this position, next we are going to do another tricky step. We want to put this edge of the flap into this pocket here, but that is difficult because this flap is much larger than the pocket. So you'd want to fold this piece of paper up and then kind of make a crease right along the edge of the pocket, something like so. The paper will not lie flat here, that's fine. And next what you want to happen is that this crease collapses at a point where there's no extra paper left. So let me make this better and then I can show it. Now you can see that the crease will look something like so, where we have this collection and an angle change. If you didn't get that, what we did was we basically just made a crease right alongside this pocket, which you can see here, and then we just kind of try to tuck this point here. It's easier now with the creases, but when the creases weren't present, the paper was bubbling. And then we collapsed this piece of paper so that it goes to a point right here without leaving any extra paper. Now instead of repeating all that on the other side, we'll just use this as a reference and fold the other side to match. Folding this up. The main thing that matters here is that these 2 points are aligning or almost aligning. The rest of the paper, it's fine, whatever happens to it. Now we can just tuck both of the sides into the respective pockets. This is again a bit tricky, but since you've already done it on one side, you should be able to do so. And of course, we'll do the same thing here. And this is what the plane should look like. Now, while the plane is like this, we will perform another slightly tricky step where actually we need to flip over. So the side which has those prongs, and now we want to reverse this crease and collapse the paper at a point, at the point that is formed and at this point. If that's a bit confusing, let me do it first. So you are kind of going to take this and then make a crease right along this edge, right, like so. And instead of opening the pocket on this side where it wants to open, you just need to reverse that, open the pocket on the opposite side, and while the crease is going right to the point alongside this edge, you want to collapse it so that it forms a point right there at the top. So I'll do that, and now the remaining slack we can sweep out, and we can just try to fold this in. It won't go all the way, but just re-facilitate that crease. And now of course we'll do the same thing here where we are reversing or just kind of making this crease less dominant. Just putting your finger here, make a crease right alongside this edge, I'm sure you can see it, and then just collapsing the paper. And now once again we'll refacilitate this crease. Now we want to use these creases to tuck this paper behind, so we just need to reverse them. It'll be easier if you start off at the thinner parts of the paper here and then move on and reverse the entire crease like so. And then of course you will do the same thing here where you will start off with the thinner thinner layers and then work your way towards the thicker ones. It will help to remake the crease if you are having trouble. like so. And now this part, now the canards are pretty much fully formed. Now you will flip over and start working on the rest of the model. You want to make a crease through this layer into the pocket. By that what I mean is, you want to make sure that this piece of paper, this layer is forming a point right at the top here inside the pocket, and that it's landing more or less on this crease. So if I try to do that, you'll see that the it's going to a point right up into the pocket, and then you want to land this crease right on the center crease, or as close to it as you can. These across. And now for the other side, even if you didn't get the side completely correctly, you just want to repeat it for the sake of symmetry. So again, for this side, I'll just make the point there. I'll just stack that point down. You can see that. You can see that. And then I will just um, instead of making the entire crease right now, I will fold the plane gently in half and then kind of crease it lightly here, and then just solidly form that crease, unfold and solidly form the crease. Okay, now you want to make a fold that takes this edge, specifically this part, towards the center, all the way to the center. And then you want to make sure that this edge is landing right at the back edge, making it perpendicular to the center crease. So this will have to be perpendicular to center crease, and you'll have to land it at this point here, landing this on the center crease and making sure that this back edge lands on itself. Crease across, and of course we'll repeat on the other side. Now we want to perform a reverse fold here, where we want this crease is in the correct direction, but we want to reverse this crease. So we want to fold in on this crease and then reverse this one. It's currently a mountain crease, and we want to reverse it to become a valley crease here. If you can see it, collapsing the paper like so, and it should look like this weird shape. I'll show it again. Folding this in, reversing this crease to collapse the rest, and of course we'll repeat for the other side. Again, we are just folding it right on this crease, which is in the correct direction, and then to collapse the rest, we are just folding along this pre-existing crease, which lets us create this shape. This. Now we'll fold this flap up and do the same here. You'll create a crease running right alongside this edge here, and of course on the other side. Now this is another slightly tricky step, where you'd want to take this edge towards the other edge, landing it right on itself. Again, back edge on back edge, and this longer edge right on it. But instead of creasing across, you'll just make a tiny pinch crease inside this pocket here, right on that halfway mark. And once you have done that, if you can see it, that pinch crease inside, without creasing the rest of the paper. And then once you have tacked that point down, you want to make this crease, extend this crease to go all the way to this back point here, this back point. And you just extend the crease, and now you have a crease that goes from right from this point here all the way to that back edge. Now you want to collapse this part of the paper, taking it all the way to this back edge. So you want to make a crease again from that point we tacked down before, all the way to this point here. Make sure that the crease is straight and not wavy, if you can manage it, of course. I got it a little curved here, but that's fine. Won't impact the flight performance much. And of course, we'll repeat all of those steps on this side before continuing. So make the pinch crease here, extend this, make the crease going right to this point, and then flatten it out. Okay, now that you've done that, we need to make a few more creases to reinforce this edge. So now I'm turning the paper towards myself so that the canards are facing me. And now I'm just going to fold this edge, double it basically on itself, fold it in half. So you want to start the crease here and again land this edge or right on top of itself, and again try to create this crease where make this very straight and not make it wavy. Of course, going all the way to the inside, or however much you can manage it. Now you will collapse the rest of the paper in this weird fashion here so that we can reverse it later. You just want to basically extend the crease as far as possible here. So that would lead to something like this, where we're just trying to extend the crease into the pocket as far as possible. The paper might get wrinkled, and then just collapse this part of the paper right on itself, and this will help us reverse the crease. If you don't understand that, basically extended this crease into the pocket and collapsed this part of the paper. And important note, this has to land right on this edge or very close to it. Now we can then go ahead and fold this part onto itself. So just reverse all the creases you made. So starting off with this crease, we are just going to reverse that crease we made from the last step and tuck it all in nicely, and then this part will get automatically reversed because of that crease we just made there. So your paper should look something like this. And now we need to repeat all those steps on the other side, but first folding this point, this extra part that crosses up this edge onto itself, and then just folding it behind as well. A little extra weight, this will stop this part from causing drag and put a little more weight forward. And of course we'll repeat all those steps on this side. And this side is more perfect. As you can see, we can just take this piece of paper, when we creased all the way into the pocket, just collapse all that slack, landing this part of the pocket right on this edge. And then the last time it wasn't as visible, so I redid it. And then of course we'll reverse this all again. It's giving me a bit of trouble. And then just using that pre-existing pocket crease we created to collapse the rest of the plane, and like so. Okay, and of course then we'll fold this part, crossing that edge behind by making a crease, of course, and then reversing it. Okay, now we are done with the hardest parts of the plane. Now we just need to make the fins and then fold the wings. So for the fins, you just need to fold this edge. You'll see you have this breaking point, and you basically want this crease to go right from the back point here. Try to get this as straight of a crease as possible, right into the plane somewhere. It could go inside this pocket as well, that's completely fine. Just want the crease to be straight. Now as you can see, once I straighten it out, it's quite straight, and that's the job. You don't want this to be too curvy. And we'll of course repeat, just trying to get the similar crease here, pretty much straight, and just going to reaffirm it. And now you'll see our fins have also been formed. Now we'll unfold them for now, and then gently fold in half again. You don't want this part to tear. I understand there's a lot of thick layers there. And then you want to create the wing crease. Now this is important. You want to create the wing crease so that it's parallel to this edge, to this fin crease. Otherwise, if you don't get it somewhat parallel, otherwise the plane is going to crash or spiral. That's important. But there's quite a bit of leeway here. On this other model, you'll see that the fins aren't exactly parallel to the wing creases, but still flies fine. I'll show it from the back as well. The fins aren't completely parallel, but it still flies fine, so there's quite a bit of leeway here. Instead of making them completely parallel for the best performance, if you want a bit more aesthetic look, then you could make the wings a little wider, but I'd say this works too. So something like this. And now while unfolding this crease, because the layers are very thick again, we'll fold the other side just to match the back edge. I'll just reaffirm this crease, just a second. Especially on the thicker parts. Okay, and now that I've made this crease, I'll just repeat it. And again, I'm not folding this wing, I'm not keeping this wing folded. I'm just following that crease on this side. It's a bit hard, but it's possible. And of course, you'll find that the main part of the plane is now complete. You can fold your fins up, and of course, you can see I got it pretty much correct this time. This will give really good flight performance compared to the previous model. Now you just need to fold down these canards. So you want to make them basically run alongside this edge, the existing edge here, and just fold them down gently again. You don't want this to tear. Even if it does tear, you can of course tape it. And then of course you'll just fold this side down as well. And now just gently, of course. And now this could be a finished plane. There's a few more things we need to do, some issues we need to address. Now you'll find that this plane does not lock in its three-dimensional shape. That's fine, it will fly normal. But this is a bit trickier. We can lock this plane by folding this part right between these two wing creases. Of course, landing the center crease on the center crease, right like so, where we just fold this between these two creases, just fold it on itself, landing the center crease on the center crease. Now, while kind of keeping the rest of the plane unfolded because this flap is different, you can just collapse this by folding on those creases, and then once you rest the plane, you'll find that it's quite locked. You can of course reaffirm these creases, fold the lock better if you find that it's not locking as well, and this will lock the plane quite reasonably well. Of course, the fuselage still splits a bit, but it's much better than without it. Now, if you manage that, another thing you want to take note of is that these canards are looking quite weird. You want them to be basically flat across the back, just rubbing them alongside a table edge. just smoothing out the slack, and that will get these very nice and tidy. Aside from that, you want the wings to be perpendicular to the ground, meaning that they should be flat across the back, and the fins to be pretty much perpendicular. And you will probably find that you need some extra stability, so folding some small fins alongside these canards that should be parallel to the center, of course, on both sides would work fine. You can even try to kind of fold both sides like so, and then fold this, and these two canards are now complete. This plane has some unique flight characteristics, of course, because of these canards, and you can just tell it just looks amazing because of these fins and canards. It definitely looks awesome. And then for the flight, you want to give it a higher throw it higher, of course, keeping all these points in mind: perpendicular, flat across the back. These should be you can keep these flat for extra surface area to create more lift, or you can point them slightly up to decrease the chance of this plane stalling. I won't say that this can completely eliminate stalling, but it does decrease it quite a bit. And you can of course blend them down, and there's a ton of things you can do to this plane to enhance or find different flight characteristics. You can fold one canard down, move one up for a spiral or barrel rolls, or making it turn in this direction, etc. There's a ton of cool things you can do with it. And of course, have good luck flying.